Good evening and welcome to Flat Earth United with me, Nathan Oakley. And joining me this evening is Jibby Jedi. How you doing, Jibby?
Very well, very well. How are you doing, Nathan?
I'm not too bad, not too bad at all. If you're new to this channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you can get updated with the latest videos and interviews. That being said, how do you find yourself, Jibby, in the arena of Flat Earth?
A very busy soldier. Getting more busy as time goes by, but that's a good thing because that's what we want, I think, is to get busy to, well, for me in my aspect, I want to get this out there as quick as possible. And it was slow going at first, but we're really picking up momentum now, and I like being very busy with this, like constructive busy. And I appreciate like the chance to be a part of it. I think this is a very important time of our lives, very important truth, very important revelation. And I'm honored. I feel very honored to be a part of it in any way I can be.
Well, how did you find out the Earth is flat?
This weird guy named Mark Sargent. I was researching into Saturn at the time. This is probably late 2014, kind of following Quasi-Luminous. And he was big into the Saturn research then, and it was a little group of us researchers on the forums hitting Saturn pretty hard. So my YouTube was on autoplay. So I'm writing down some notes here and drawing some diagrams of the hexagon pole of Saturn and whatnot. And then I hear, hi, this is a series of clues about the flat Earth. And I just hear Mark's intro, and I slowly just picked my head up. What? Flat Earth? Like... And I just left it, and I listened to the whole thing. You know, that look on somebody's face when you're talking to people. You'll have the smiles, the laughs, the jokes, and then that one guy who's just taking it in. He's just quiet. He's listening. Eye contact. That was me. I was taking it all in. After the first clue, I had to click on another one, and then I clicked on another one, and jaw dropped. Just it's never occurred to me. I was big into astronomy. I studied astronomy all the time for fun. So that was something that never even occurred. I thought flat Earth was an insult. Like, you know, I didn't think it was real. So that was it. It sent me on my way, Mr. Mark Sargent.
Interesting way of putting it. You say flat Earth is an insult because now, what for you, probably 2.5 years into this, you know exactly why that's so very, very true. You know, flat Earth is an insult, and for very good reason.
Yeah, and I didn't even know there were real people who, I thought it was just a religious cult, Flat Earth Society group, very secular thing. That's all I thought it was, the existence of it. I didn't even know there were real people. Like, come on, man. Like, for real? But there are so many anomalies in astronomy that you come across when you're dabbling in astronomy that NASA never gives you a good answer for. And how do you know, like, who to turn to after that? So we turn to the amateur astronomer community, and we all talk amongst each other, and there's the fanboys, and there's the people who color outside the lines. So who do you follow? And my kitty cat. And I always call it outside the lines. I said, well, this doesn't make sense. Why does the planet look a little oblong here? You know, it looked very strange. Or just, why can't I get a sharp resolution on stars? Things like that didn't make sense. But as soon as I heard dome, things started to click. Like, you know what? Something that kind of makes sense to explain a lot of the anomalies I see up there. And I went from there. And my first videos were 2015, which I had pulled down because they were getting a little too much attention too fast. And back then, say June 2015, it was only a handful of people talking flat Earth on YouTube. And it was a barrage of the hate army coming at you. And if you even answered one positive thing on a flat Earth video, you were responding to that for a year because you said something positive. So everybody was attacking the positive comments. And to be the author of the video, you were just taking heat constantly. And I got a little nervous, and I backed off a little bit and pulled my videos down, but I was duplicating things. I had a clear pane of glass with a blue sky, take a flashlight, and now I was mimicking the moon of what we see of it. Like, here's the moon. Like, you couldn't really tell it was the moon or my flashlight because it was the blue sky background and it was a clear glass. Then I'd take my finger and I would kind of occult the light, and I was causing the moon phases exactly the way we see them. And then I would take my moonlight, so a little moon flashlight, at night, and I would go up and down my barn on the clapboard. Now I'm duplicating the lunar wave. And little things like that I was just duplicating, showing how it could be done with glass, with a reflection of the moon off glass. And it's got like 1,500 views in a few days. And I was like, oh, now it's getting too hot in here. And I backed off a little, and then I started to just do things in the background. So I wasn't like so what do they call it? A personality, flat Earth personality. I didn't want to.
Just you're not in the background. You know, I see you debating people like Charles, and that's not in the background.
Oh, well, that was 2015. I wanted to spend 2015 in the background because I wanted to see the lay of the land before I stepped out kind of in the open with my face out there, because it was just my voice out there mostly, not my face. I didn't know if I was ready for that kind of commitment yet, and ready for that kind of battle that comes to you once you're now public, like with it. Like, yes, I admit I'm a flat earther. Yes, I know it's flat. I don't believe it's flat. That's what I say now. I said, they say, do you believe the Earth's flat? I said, absolutely not. I know it is. So I'm much more confident. But it took me 7 months of fighting that title. As soon as I said, have you guys seen Flat Earth Clues? Have you seen Matt Powerland? Have you seen these things at Eric Dubay? And they'd say, well, you're Flat Earth Theory and you are Flat Earth. And I'm like, whoa. I'm just researching Flat Earth. Don't call me that. And I was taking offense to it. I'm like, I'm just researching this. I'm not a flat earther. And I fought that for 7 months. But in 7 months of intensive research, a buddy of mine who was an attorney and going through this just like I was, he finally just accepted the title. He's like, you know what? After everything I've looked at, I'm a flat earther. And he inspired me to take that same step where I was, you know what? I think I'm confident enough to nail that down now, plant the flag. I am a flat earther, and I'm not going back. I'm not going over the fence, not fence jumping. It took me 7 months to make that conclusion of neutral information. That's it. I'm a flat earther. And I've been there ever since, and never wavered, never even twitched back to the ball because I haven't seen anything. There's so much missing. That's just not going to show up. We're not going to see 1 million, 2 million, 5 million videos and photos of curvature and all these things just show up out of nowhere. They're not there. They're not going to be there. That's it. That's my opinion.
Even the trolls, they're discussing the really finite details of obscurity when it comes to curvature, and most of it is actually based in the sky. They're talking about star trails. I mean, you're a fan of looking up in the night sky with a telescope. Me too. You know, it's not a shock. Most of the things that are presented to flat earthers in general are new because they're not looking up in the sky. But for me, I was. I mean, I don't know about your personal experience with the plane itself. Are you reasonably well traveled? Have you got around and about on the flat plane?
I have in my country, and I've been to Canada, but I've flown back and forth across the United States, back, forth, up, down. I've seen the country from the air several times. Excuse me. So I have a basic gist of what I was seeing out the window. I loved the window seat when I was on a plane. It's just, if I can get a window seat, I will. I'll buy my tickets early because I just stared out the window, my headphones on the whole time, just fascinated. Wasn't looking for curvature. Never occurred to me back then, pre-flat Earth. But I go back now and I remember there was not a lick of curvature out there. It's just same thing that we see on all the videos. It was amazing. Just until it's brought to your attention, you're just not looking for it.
Yeah, what's the B.O.B. the rapper, when he had that picture, I forget where it was, but he had two cities behind him, and he was saying, well, there's supposed to be XYZ amount of curve between these two cities. Well, where is it? And they had, I think it was even Neil deGrasse Tyson misrepresenting the argument and, you know, just playing off curve maths rather than addressing the fact that there was no curvature between these two cities. But yeah, as you say, when you're looking out a plane window, what you see beneath you is a flat plane. There's no two ways about that. And it's conceded on both sides. You know, there won't be an intellectually honest globe head out there that would say, oh, yeah, you got 30,000 feet. Of course you can see curvature. Can't. You just can't get high enough on the globe. So therefore, it's conceded on both sides. What you see from an airplane window is a flat plane. Their argument or their workaround would be that you're just too small. You're like a bacteria on a basketball. You're never going to see any curvature. You're physically too small. But what we would say is, no, it looks flat because it is flat, and you've got maths that dictate how curvy it should be based on your 24,000 circumference equator. Unfortunately, we ain't seeing it. What we see is flatness.
That's what we see, and they'll say, well, then you need to do this, that, and the other. And I've listened to everything they've said. I've listened to as many debunkers as I could because I wanted somebody intelligent. I didn't want to talk to a student. I wanted to talk to the teacher. With our group, Flat Earth New England, and there's also like Flat Earth Framingham, which is basically NASALies.org group, Brother Ernest and such, who has the best signs, the best flat earth signage I've ever seen. Very well made, and he's been building this set of signs for a while. It's a stack of them that carry them in and everything, and oh, it's such good fun. And he's passionate, and all of the Flat Earth New England people are passionate. And so I was discussing with him when he joined Flat Earth New England. I said, we want to start hitting Harvard and MIT. He's like, oh, I've been hitting those regularly. I said, really? I was like, we need to do it as a group. He's like, yeah, we could. He's like, I stand out here this week and do it weekly. And sure enough, he does. And I joined him last weekend, I think it was. Yeah, last weekend I joined him. And we had a great time. It was some of us from Flat Earth New England and his Flat Earth Framingham group. And we hit Harvard Square in a spot in front of a 24-hour CVS that he kind of has locked down. He's figured out the legal way to do it, to set up signs where it's legal. He's following the...
You mean you literally go to the square with signage?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And he does it in a way where CVS...
From MIT students, I mean...
Well, even better, we had a group of Oxford students come walk by the other day. Like, that's not something you see every day there. Oxford. So, you know, unless... We'll have to travel overseas to talk to the Oxford kids. They came to us. So everybody was engaged with other people. And then here come this group of Oxford kids, you know, young bucks or whatever. And I go, oh, I'm not missing this opportunity. So I was listening to them. They were making some creation jokes and comments and things like that. So I wasn't letting them walk away. So I picked a fight with them basically. Oh, yeah, you think you're a monkey? You know, you live on a spinning ball. And that started like a 1 hour engagement back and forth with all of us. And it was fantastic. I had the video up on my channel and it was great. It was going viral on Brother Ernest. He broadcasts live on Facebook when he does it. And he usually does these sometimes both Friday and Saturday at Harvard Square or at MIT. He'll broadcast it live on his Facebook, other Facebook Flat Earth groups, then simulcast his live broadcast. We went viral last time, probably 10,000 views in the first night. And it was that kind of debate with left brain versus right brain, you know, and for me, I don't have, you know, a doctorate or anything. I don't have a double bachelor's. So like I shouldn't be able to go face to face with these people according to everything we've been told. These people, I shouldn't be any match for these people, but we hold our own. We hold our own with Harvard, MIT. We hold our own with all of them. And, they'll throw some studies at us, but that really doesn't make us waver. We stick to our guns. You'll have to excuse me for a second.
What is that beeping? What's going on? We get all sorts of conspiratard comments now because of that.
Yeah. I don't know. Could be.
You've summed it up nicely, though. It's exactly that. It's left brain versus right brain. It's what people have been told versus your intuition and instinct and observations. And you know, when reality's on your side, you're gonna fare well. It doesn't matter how educated you are. Reality's on our side, unfortunately, for these educated people.
That's just it. And is it a matter of intelligence, like weighing an IQ versus an IQ, and what is an IQ really? But other than maybe an ability to memorize, which does that make you intelligent? Are you the best tape recorder we have? So you will be our leader because you memorize the best. Like, is that all it really is? It's memorizing and understanding it, I suppose, but memorization seems to be the thing that's rewarded. Memorization, along with the belief in what you're memorizing. So you need to take it in, then you need to believe it, take it in your heart, basically. Like what we're telling you about the Helio model is true. Take it into your heart. Know it. It is true. Yes, okay, here's your diploma, here's your reward. If you question it, which I did, I went to Jesuit Catholic school, kind of like Jaron, 12 years, and I spent a lot of time in the hallway in the principal's office because I wasn't, things need to make sense to me, like with a lot of us, and you keep asking until it does. And sometimes the teachers get frustrated because sometimes you're a little smarter than your teacher as far as what real smarts is. The ability to think for yourself, the ability to think clearly, think critically, and not just be a parrot, not just be a drone. And the Jesuit school teachers really don't take kindly to that. They're like, it is because this is the way it is. That's it. Like, and that's usually, they don't have anything beyond that, but you get 100 more questions, get out. Just get out. So it's almost like they accuse you of being a troll in class when you're not trolling. You want to know how gravity works. How does a push-pull work? Like, all the years of astronomy I did, I still didn't understand gravity. Because let's say, wow, it's this 3 chalkboards of math behind me. Then you'll know gravity. So basically, I've taken your word for it. Okay. You just kind of throw it away. Okay, yeah, that's... And you look behind you, you have a big pile of unanswered questions that need to be gotten to. Flat Earth fills in all those gaps. Like it was just completing all of the things as soon as I came across them. Now that makes sense. Now that makes sense. Now that makes sense. It's epiphanies that we've all enjoyed in Flat Earth, I think.
Yeah, it was a mad epiphany for me. I mean, for me, it was Math Powerland. And I don't know if I'm pleased or not that it wasn't Mark Sargent's clues first, because I know it's so well arranged. You know, for a layman into Flat Earth, you can really kind of step your way forward through the cognitive deprogramming almost. Whereas with math, it wasn't like that. It was just fucking craziness. You know, I say craziness in brackets because it's not really craziness. I've reviewed some of the stuff that he said again now that I'm further along, and you go, wow, there's so much stuff in there that I just didn't understand at the time, but now I do. And when Matt's saying it, it's even more difficult to digest. But literally, when he said flat Earth without saying it, I think you said this at the beginning of the show, but not in ridicule, you know, just hearing it not being torn a new one or being used to pour scorn on somebody as an idiot. When I heard it in those terms, I literally went and woke my wife up. I shook her out of bed and I was like, yeah, it's flat. It's amazing. You know, delighted because, as you say, I had an epiphany. You know, it's like a eureka moment. You have flashes of all these things we now talk about on these shows, like sitting in the plane, you know, looking out at the plane, swinging a bucket when I was about 7 years old and thinking, I've just had an explanation of how water sticks to the earth. And this doesn't make any sense, you know, and then you put it on the back burner and forget about it till, you know, 20 or 30 years later, when you hear someone like Matt Powerland mention it in a positive context. It's definitely an epiphany. But do you feel better or worse? You've mentioned about the trolls being descending on your older videos. Is it a positive experience now, or do you still feel similar and what's the word? Cautious about your road forward?
Well, like sometimes a positive experience can hurt and be rough along the way. Like let's say you're really dirty and you need to be clean, so somebody hits you with a hose to clean you. It's not a very pleasant experience, but it is a positive experience because now you're cleaning up. So for me, it's like I'm getting shit thrown at me by the trolls, but it was a positive experience. It's not fun to go through, but it sharpened me, made me stronger, made me more aware on my game with the facts, and it only did good. The way I look at it is you're either going to prove me wrong and then I will correct that mistake, or that's basically it. Like, I'm not going to get anything by being right. If I'm going to stay the same. So it's only a win-win the way I look at it. So if you want to come at me, then okay, prove me wrong, please. Like, by all means, please. And then I'll find a mistake. Okay, now my argument is that much better. So you've just bettered me. So I thank them for that when they do it. And it's happened. We don't start off perfectly polished. Along the way, we sharpen our facts. We sharpen our maths, maybe you could say, or science of it. I've sharpened. I'm not afraid to take on MIT, Harvard, Oxford. I prefer it. I want to get to those teachers. I would like to set up maybe at MIT or Harvard, Flat Earth, New England. We're going to do. We're doing a park right next to Harvard. We're going to be within eye shot of Harvard. The 23rd, I want to say. That's the big day of the planetary lineup and everything that we're going to have on September 23rd. We are having a meetup that day. So we'll see how that goes as far as the energy, the celestial activity, the astrology of it all. But I want to come across some of these teachers. And we were at Revere Beach a couple weeks ago, about a month ago. And we came across a gentleman with a PhD in physics from MIT. And he spent a good 45 minutes with us. And we had our P900s out. We were showing him this lighthouse 7.1 miles away, 32.6 feet, curvature drop, the whole thing. And he said, well, if your numbers are right here, you guys have something. Like, very neutral, unbiased, no confirmation bias. He's just telling us straight up, facts plus facts equals facts. Then yes, you have something if all of these facts are as you say they are, as they're true. Like our math, if our math is true, we have something. We're not on that ball of that math. And he was intrigued, and he walked away with Brother Ernest got his information, and we gave him some paperwork to look over, and hopefully Brother Ernest is still in touch with him. But we need that. We need more accredited people, the teachers, who teach this. That's my target. I want to go have dialogue with them, serious dialogue. And when I do, it's a very enjoyable experience because they're teaching me things that I still didn't know. And oh, that's interesting. Okay. Well, what about this? Now we show them things that they didn't know. I had one debate with a scientist. We couldn't even get the numbers of the thermosphere right as far as temperature. And one aspect is they tell us the temperature of the thermosphere, like the PhD guy from MIT made me aware of something I didn't even think of. I said, the thermosphere is 2,000 degrees, and he said, stationary or movement. And I was like, you know what? I never thought about that because it's even worse with movement because now you have the friction aspect because it's still within atmosphere. So the ISS, 17,000 miles an hour, friction now. So that 2,000 degrees, do they state if that's stationary or in movement? Because I don't remember them stating either way. But stationary is bad. Movement's even worse through 2,000 degrees. So that thing would be literally like and this man it would look like a streak in the sky. He says, this is what those fireballs are. It's burning up through the atmosphere. It's the friction creating that heat. This ISS would be doing the same thing. It would be a fireball in the sky. Traveling through 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 17,500 miles an hour. It would be a fireball. Because it's still well within the atmosphere because you still have half the other thermosphere to go through plus the exosphere. So it's still like hundreds of miles of atmosphere, technically, according to them. That stuff I find very fascinating talking to, and I learned something new.
Wouldn't your Charles Flat Earth Math just say that at that layer it's very, very it's so rarefied that the friction is negated because there's literally less stuff to be rubbing against.
But even a little bit of 2,000 degrees it's still 2,000 degrees, and you're
No, I
traveling.
already know the comeback, but it's just I'm just putting it across for the audience.
Yep, you know exactly what he's going to say. And when the Boston Globe contacted us and we were talking to them, they asked if we had any affiliates who were on the other side of the fence. The only one I could think of that I trust enough to be, give a pretty not disparaging, not patronizing towards us kind of report was Charles, basically. So Charles did get in touch with them and they spoke, and Charles and I are friends, despite our opposing views, it doesn't take away from my respect for him and what he does, and he believes in what he does, and I respect that. And I like the way he carries himself with us. And I'll give him the pass for the little patronizing tone he has sometimes, and passive aggressive. I give him a pass because he does so well on the other parts.
Also, he doesn't. He's a good person to have around to show the flip side of what we get accused of, which is trolling. So there's many a flat earth troll out there, and they can be quite vicious. And when you've got someone like Charles who doesn't rise to it, I don't need to repeat what you've just said that was a bit negative about Charles. We all know Charles, or some of us know Charles. But he won't, he doesn't immediately go to ad hominem attacks. He'll not swear. He's generally quite civil. So it's nice to see an example of the flat earthers actually being as bad as some of the globe head trolls, which admittedly are much greater in numbers. But there are quite a few flat earthers out there that are pretty disgusting in their treatment of Charles. It makes me cringe. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I hosted a hangout in summer of 2016 where I had a full panel of flat earthers, and I invited Charles in to protest by them. Why are you giving this guy time of day? I said, why not? I mean, how many other accredited, I guess you could say, people are dabbling around? We're mostly dealing with kids. In my perception, we're dealing with a lot of troll kids. I wanted to deal with some adults here who can carry themselves. And like you said, Charles doesn't swear. He doesn't conduct himself in a foolish manner. He's pretty professional and intelligent and intellectual, and I enjoyed that. So I had him on the panel, and they were blasting him hard. F you, Charles, F you. And I'm like, no, come on, guys. Go easy on him.
Got some agreement I wasn't going to read. I don't normally go to the chat while I've got a guest, but I will in this instance. So I got Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole says, I don't give Charles a pass. And then YouTube agreeing, saying, Dearth, same here. So maybe the chat will tell us specifically why they don't give Charles or Flat Earth Math a pass. We shall see.
Hopefully give him a pass because, we don't have a lot to pick from. That we can have dialogue with who conduct themselves well. We don't. We really don't. And Charles is one of the best out there that we have to throw back and forth with. And funny is that he's helping me debunk NASA and, the space agencies. Him and I, we will exchange emails every now and then. And he sent me one a few weeks back from the European Space Agency. And it was something they published where they did side-by-side rockets, Soyuz rockets, I guess. And it was 2 different launches. And they had animated GIFs side by side, and so that way when the propellant ejects and they tumble away, because I'm always going back and forth with Charles about the fakery. He's like, "Look, Jibby, look at the way they tumble away uniformly. That's precision engineering." He likes to throw that at me. So I said, "All right, give me a little bit here." And then a few days later, I caught it. The cloud patterns, they matched. What they did is they took one of them and they rotated it 90 degrees. So when I rotated it 90 degrees, so the rocket was going horizontally while the other one was going vertically, now the cloud patterns matched. 2 different days, 2 different missions, 2 different launches, same cloud patterns. But you didn't notice it because one of them was tilted. I'm always looking for these things. This is my expertise. So I fixed it for him, and I emailed it to him, and I said, "Here you go, Charles." And then he points to one of the clouds and says, "No, that's a mountain, Jibby. Have you seen Gem Panda's stuff?" And then he just changed change subject because I think he saw what I did there, and he said, "Keep him coming, Charles. Let's take him down together."
So he didn't actually concede the point though.
He didn't, but I think I got him because this was undeniable. This was absolutely undeniable. It's going to be in compilations that I'll be doing of NASA fakery, of space fakery, and this is a big one. And it's just a matter of tilting it 90 degrees. And now all the cloud patterns match up, which is proof of altered mirroring of different. They just add layers and then point, click, add your rocket, change the color of the rocket. And that's all it is. It's software. It's software. And I did that debate with Charles where he jumped off the panel because he blamed Pillbox for that.
Or NASA, because it tends to be SpaceX that cheap out and do like reuse old footage and old layers in CGI and things like that. NASA tend to be, because they've got the budget to. Was that NASA?
SpaceX?
Yeah, I thought so. SpaceX do tend to do. They seem to be a bit more rough around the edges than NASA in places.
And landing a pencil rocket, dropping with waffle irons. That's clearly logical. It's 9/11 physics
around some magic, isn't it? Because I know Jaron does a lot of videos on SpaceX, and they're look at this hand. It's basically a magic trick. And when they have the thing land, in most footage, I'm sure there's been an instance now where they've done a slightly better job, but they just cut away.
Yep.
Literally blocky, distorted picture, and then the rocket's landed. Like, this is an absolute joke. But to the fanboys, they wholeheartedly believe it. This is going to get me flack, but it does kind of seem a bit pathetic when it is that obvious, because it is obvious.
I know, and then I tell myself, what's the catch? Because it is so obvious. What's the catch? Is this bait? Is this bait to get us all going, it's fake, it's fake? Like, are we falling for their trap? Because to anybody non-fluoridated brain-wise, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it really is. And it's like they drop the dummy down, and then they shut the lights off, turn the lights on, and then there's the person standing there. Ta-da! I mean, it's the magic trick. and the physics of it don't make any sense. It doesn't. And the flame that comes out of the rocket looks like butane. It's like a flame. It's like a literal, like this, where it should be rocket propellant. Those lighters that have like the torch. Well, this is what you see like at the bottom of the rocket coming down. Does this make any sense? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's not going to stop descent. That's just me and a bunch of us. We're all on that page, but.
Well, maybe we should say it in more broad terms. I occasionally have to be conscious of the fact that there might be people who come to this video who haven't got the slightest clue what we're talking about, and will leave a comment 6 months from now that says, obviously the Earth's a globe. What are you talking about? And so if we put it in broad terms, space is fake. What they present to us as infinite soups of nothingness is complete horseshit. We have no idea what's above up, and there's probably not very much of up anyway from what we can ascertain. We can't go very high. So their representations of the heavens are, maybe I shouldn't say this, but they're no more realistic than the biblical representations of the heavens. If you were to put it in cartoon form, there you go, that's soften the blow a little bit. If you've got Monty Python's pictures of clouds parting with God sitting on top of it, that's as valid as NASA and their presentations of what space is. All they essentially are doing is having a look and then telling us what it is. They arbitrarily assign values to things in terms of weights and sizes, and they've got their backstories and their giant balls to explain why. But ultimately speaking, it's just another belief system. You have to take what they say on faith when it comes to space, because none of us are going and verifying what they tell us. So ultimately speaking, we have to take it on faith. And all the education system does, as you so eloquently put earlier, is get people to parrot what they say is the truth. Now, just saying something's true doesn't make it true, unfortunately, for NASA. And it doesn't matter how many bullshit presentations you put in front of somebody who already knows the magic trick. And that's the bottom line here. once you know the magic trick, once you understand how they've faked space, you can't unsee it anymore. This was going to lead me on to my question, which is, how do you view the globe? Is it something that you would say, well, maybe, maybe they'll go up and take a decent picture, or is it dead to you?
It's completely dead. It's actually mostly decayed at this point. There's no chance of bringing it back. It's beyond. I'm in it for good. And Boston Globe reporter was telling that to Mark Sargent. He was kind of referring to me, but not by name. He's like, one of the guys in the Boston group I've been kind of focusing on. He says, like, he kind of wishes he didn't fall into this because now he feels obligated. And it's true, because that's what I told him. I said, I feel like I'm obligated here, and I'll do whatever I have to do, because it's kind of like A plus B equals C now. I have this information, and I've been spending 20-something years of my life studying what the adults are doing at the adult table versus the kids at the kids table, which is where we're at. And I want to know adult speak, and I want to know what they're talking about, and I want to know what's really going on. So I've always looked into it. And I've been fighting NASA for over 20 years, mostly on the moon and Mars. Those two, the physics just were preposterous, and I've been fighting that. But Flat Earth brought me into a whole new level of NASA fakery. Like, the ISS is now fake. Satellites are fake. Like, there's no asteroids. None of those things are real anymore. So it just broadened my horizons, and now I see it. Now I see it all.
Keep going. The list goes on. Planets, exoplanets, the Kuiper Belt, the Oort cloud. What else we got? You can't deny certain things, though, because you can actually physically witness them. So orbital mechanics, ching, nice little tick. We can witness those things. But to say that that's a rock going around a gas body or another rock, nah, sorry. Unless you actually go and check, I'm not buying it. You can give me all the different light frequencies you like. Couldn't care less. You're not checking. You're not verifying. You're just looking, just having a little look, and then telling us what it is. No, just don't accept that anymore. Can't do it. You've got to give me something better. And they're never going to come up with anything juicy. We know how badly misrepresented it has been. And if there was any shred of truth in it, they'd have decent proof. They'd have something to convince us. We'd be easy to convince. And we say it all the time. We throw it off. Just give us the proof. We'll throw their budget back in their face, the 52 million a day that they spend. For that, get us some decent shots. Get us some really top quality high altitude shots. Don't just tell us that they're high altitude. And you go, what are the odds? You go really high on the ISS, and it is pretty high. And they're always using what looks like a zoom lens to take pictures of the ground. It's like, silly. And then when you actually get the 24-hour feeds that are like a fairly wide shot, it's so preposterous. It's so blatantly CGI'd together. It's so fake. And again, for most people, they can't see the magic trick because they've never seen that point of view. They've got no reference point. We use that as our strongest argument. Well, we can't go, we can't check, we can't verify. We don't have that vantage point. And they use it as their layer of cognitive dissonance for most people. This is how it is. We can show you. This is what it looks like. And for any guy who just goes, well, I've got a mental construct of a globe, and there's a picture of it. What's the question? If you're average Joe, he couldn't care less. Even if you tell him that it's fake, they'll say something like, oh, what difference does it make? Does it really matter if it's flat or not? Yeah, it does matter.
How does it affect my life?
On a huge level. So yeah, it's pretty important.
Yeah, and I think for those people, like, they're just seeing their immediate surroundings. Like, what do I have to do tonight? What do I have to do tomorrow? What do I have to do next week? How is the shape of the Earth going to make any difference in that? So they're only seeing their immediate kind of surroundings and not so much the bigger aspect of it and what it implies into their lives, right down to the daily level, what it implies and how they should now rearrange everything. Like, let's say if your routine is watching 6 hours of television with your kids every day. Well, now if you know the Earth is flat, then you've been lied to on such a scale, and it's perpetuated by this TV. And now, is the TV your friend or your enemy? And now, can you trust their advice? And now, can you trust what they recommend to eat on their commercials? And all. So, what it implies is such a big thing that you can't just hear it and then 30 seconds later come out with a very thoroughly well thought out response. Like, well, what difference does it make in my life? Well, that's somebody who said that hasn't really sat back and pondered it for a few days, and just let your mind start dominoes of what that implies and how that implies to all the levels below and below that and below that and below that, and what this all trickles down to and what it really means. And they're just kind of like, that's just a quick impulsive response, I think. And we come down hard on them. We really do. Like, oh, you're such an idiot. How can you say such a thing? But we need to be a little bit more understanding, I think. And I need to take that advice myself, because I come harsh on people like that too, because it's so frustrating. It's like, what do you mean? Like, it's, like, this is the biggest thing. Like, this affects everything.
Well, for most people, they will see what's on TV and they will trust it. And once you appreciate that the scale of lies goes to the point that they will lie to you about the very ground beneath your feet, suddenly you're less inclined to believe them when they show you some false flag or some hoax or some government paid piece of propaganda which has been pre-filmed, pre-packaged, preordained to happen in the first instance. You're going to question that. But as it stands, most people are like, yeah, that's what the TV said. The news said it's so it's so. And that's a massive form of control, especially when you have invasions. And I can hear myself cringe as I say these things, because we're buying into things that, again, we don't necessarily verify ourselves. Not that I'm denying that wars happen, but you don't know how far it goes in terms of what they say is important in life. Money, is it really that important? But it's one of the control structures that surround us. I've got people in the chat saying 52 million, and it's tip of the iceberg. And you're going, well, yeah, you're right, if you quantify it in those terms. But if you quantify it, that's how big the scale of deception can be. Literally, your very reality has been lied about. Then you can start to appreciate the, let's not call them less important lies, but the other lies that we are surrounded by daily. We are continually lied to about everything. 99% of what we see is deception. It's amazing to be able to just say that without stuttering, but it's true.
Yep. Before Flat Earth, I was fighting the vaccine fight, fighting the fluoride fight, fighting all those tangible, provable, peer-reviewed fight. Like, there's videos from the 50s where scientists were saying, look what the sodium fluoride molecule does to the cells. Look what it does to the neurons here. I find no beneficial evidence whatsoever for sodium fluoride, and that is what the recommendations that I recommend to the council. And this is from like 67 years ago. I just put it in anyway, and you can see what it's doing to the cells, and all the studies and all the whistleblowers. And the whistleblowers are located on YouTube. Oh, YouTube. So YouTube is heavily demonized, but like Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole says, what's not on YouTube? Everything's on YouTube. Your local news that night will be on YouTube that night or the next day. Like, so the same things are on YouTube that are on your TV. But why is, when the argument against you, now you demonize the medium, but when it's for you, you praise the medium? It's all subjective bias. It's confirmation bias, subjective bias. So YouTube has such great information. You want to install new Windows as a how-to, DIY for everything. You want to change parts of your car. YouTube is a very effective medium for learning. It really is. In all aspects, even astronomy. Amateur astronomers, I can't afford a $10,000 telescope, but the people with them post online on YouTube. They post their $10,000 telescope views of the planets, and it's awesome. So now I can vicariously enjoy them through those people who can't afford them. It's a great tool. And the whistleblowers are all over YouTube. The doctors who lost their license to practice, and whistleblowing about the vaccines and all the corruption in the pharmaceutical companies. People won't spend that time because I don't think they care enough. And I think it comes down to caring about yourself, because if you don't care about yourself, how can you care about anyone else? In my opinion.
While we've just got on the subject, can you make it? I know I watch Pro 777 and Take Back Space for really high def um, space footage, and in my experience, I mean, my telescope isn't fantastic, but it's better than most people can, just look up and see. Far, far, far better. But by comparison to what I can see with my scope, I would literally say that some of these streams are superior. They have better resolution than I can get with my telescope with the naked eye. And it's just incredible, to see. Have you got any recommendations? So I'll rattle them off mine again. So Crow, CROW 777, and Take Back Space. I think he's now called Take Back Space TV. Christy is the host of that one. But did you have any others that you can recommend? Oh, I think Jibby's dropped and come back in when he gets his mic back off mute. And repeat the question once he's there. Shout outs to the chat while he's rejoining. I think he's having a few technical issues. Let's read some of the chat. Banksy Shill. How you doing? Good to see you. Oh, the other chat's a lot more busy than this one. How you doing, Esom Hall? Mark Taylor? Have you here? Agent Gem Panda? Should use your channel name, really, shouldn't I, Issa? Flat Earth Court. Subscribe now. Nice and cordial in here. Hank Hill, good to have you here.
Have I returned? Am I back?
You have.
I'm having browser issues here.
Sorry. I was just going to say, did you have any recommendations for specific streams that do high def space?
No. No. They're all junk. Is my camera working? I can do an F5.
Nah, not
my camera.
Maybe flick it on and flick it off again.
Yeah, let me try that. There we go. All right.
There you go.
That's all right. Beautiful. No, that all the live streams are bunk. They're. I used to fall asleep to the ISS stream. Just because it was.
No, I didn't mean those space. No, sorry. Of course, because you must have dropped halfway through what I was saying. So I was saying people like Crow 777 and Take Back Space TV have got, as the name suggests, they're taking, well, with Christie's channel, taking back space and showing it for what it really is. Just showing it. And I was saying that that's, for my eyes, better than what I can get through my telescope, with lenses. Amazing, some of the equipment that they've got. But do you have any recommendations for reality-based space channels?
I've lost track of them, and a lot of them, they just kind of, they get all the planets, they put them up, and that's it. They don't really do much more. They might come around for celestial events, Perseids, meteor showers, and things like that. But like they'll usually put the name of their telescope in the title, and you can look up that telescope just for Google and then click shopping, so you can get a price range of it. And some of them you'll see well into the thousands, and those people have equatorial mounts and whatnot, and they'll give you a view of the celestial bodies in a way that you'll never be able to afford to see them. And I've looked through $10,000, $15,000 scopes. So what they're showing you is true, is what you'll see through those scopes. So they're not doctoring it or whatever, but they're never showing you anything remotely close to the space agencies with terra firma, definitive ground to anything. It just looks like they all look like ball of gases to me through scopes.
I'm just going to clarify again, just for that guy, that one person or woman that's watching this that doesn't follow. So what we're now talking about is, when you look through your telescope, you'll see points of light in the sky. Some of them have got rings around them. Some of them have got various other things that travel around them. However, what NASA present to us is glorious artwork of distant worlds, and they have all sorts of descriptions about gas and the masses, and you can imagine what I'm talking about just by describing. I'm not going to bring up any images, but these aren't what you see through a telescope. Au contraire, it's not at all what we see through a telescope. Now, they will claim that they have got these from ships that are traveling to far away places that we could never reach. But ultimately, this is the contrast that I'm trying to explain to the audience, that you're not necessarily just talking about what's coming out of that lens of a telescope and click, that's your image of Saturn. We're talking about the bullshit that they provide you in their artwork and their CGI, correct?
Yep. Well, it is photoshopped, but it has to be. Yeah. And never did I see confirmation of a terra firma. And in fact, the only thing that I can say even remotely seems spherical is Saturn. And that's just because of the ring and because of the way the shadow is cast upon the ring. In the helio model, with the way that Saturn is towards the sun and the way the ring wraps around Saturn, with the light being cast on it, casts a shadow on the ring. I've seen the shadow on the ring. I'm like, wow, I can't really argue against that, because it does have the appearance of, unless it's a flat circle with a ring around it, which I've never heard of such a thing, but we don't know. But it does appear spherical. The rest, I don't know. They're just circles to me. They're circles of gas, it looks like. I don't see solidity. I see gas. Well, it looks like a gas, just a ball of gas. And they do call the giant planets gas giants. So coincidentally, they do appear to just look like balls of gas. And Venus and whatnot, I can't get a resolution tight enough to see anything other than yellow, basically just yellow. Maybe I'm looking at clouds. I don't know. But it's so hard because they're so bright. Now you have to adjust your contrast. You have to adjust the lighting just right to be able to absorb all that light and then shade it down a bit. And there's a little bit of a hack you can do with the P900 where you shine a flashlight in the lens, then you lock in the new contrast. And now it's not just like a blur. And people could do that with the stars, because that'll improve their sharpening of the stars as well. And I've zoomed in on some stars, and no matter how much I sit there and I play with each delicate turn of the manual focus, you can only focus in so much, because it's like you're trying to focus in on balls of dancing plasma reflected off something. So there's only so much sharpness and resolution you can get with it. But if you're looking at a ball of any type, you're not sharpened in enough. You're not focused enough, because it shouldn't look like a ball. It should look like dancing plasma. It should look weird. And there's people who have hit pauses, and that you see that this is what the stars look like. And that is what they look like. And each one looks different. And some are red, some are blue, some dance weird, some dance differently. Some look like they have a shape to it. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And there's a guy named John Leonard Walson who's been putting stuff out, I want to say since 2008, 2009, maybe sooner. He has this technique. He hooks a camera up to his computer, and now he resolves the stars a little better. And they look like, I don't know, they look like ghostly transformers or giant ships that morph and transform. And somebody said, somebody says a lot of things, but somebody said that they were fake. But, he'll show you. Here's my camera hooked into the laptop, and you'll see it on the laptop, and he'll go to the LCD on the camera, and there's that thing on the camera pointed up. So if he's faking it, he's doing a great job. And it's very convincing. And I've seen for myself that some of the stars up there are fakers. They're not real stars. They just park. And then you're watching them move with a constellation over time. And then these things will just move. They'll just take off on their own. But they were parked. And then they just start moving. And a lot of people who stare at the sky have seen these things. And we don't know what they are. They could be ships. We don't know. We don't know what they are. Drones, maybe. I don't know.
This isn't far-fetched. This is something that if you've got low enough light, you can see this with the naked eye. I mean, I've seen this myself. This isn't shocking. If you just look, just stare up at the night sky for long enough, you will see things like this. It's not uncommon at all. I'm going to say, would you agree? I hope you'll just say yes, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. But what is uncommon is somebody looking up, because they're always looking at their device. They're just
Exactly.
oh wait, those are clouds. And they're all just, that's it. Everybody's looking down. So the devices in a way are a win for them, because you're putting all your information on them. You're looking down instead of looking up. You're engaged and you're not communicating anymore with your family. Everybody's sitting around the table on their devices. You're not talking at the restaurant anymore. You're hanging outside by the fire. Everybody's on their thing. So what a tool these devices really are, like these phone devices, like is nobody's. So I've kept it old school as far as I can. I don't know where my phone is right now. Like it's just this is my phone. Like they don't even make these anymore. It doesn't even have a camera. It's just it barely has internet, but it's a little prepaid phone, and I'm keeping it old school. And I find myself looking out the window, looking at the sky, talking to people. I don't have anything I want to do on this. I can go home and do right now. I do need one of. I have to update eventually. You can only stay so long outside the herd before they don't hear or see you anymore. Hey guys, and the herd, and they're just walking along. And eventually, you got to get one of the iBorg devices, plug in. Now they can hear you. It took me till 2013 before I joined Facebook, because I'm like, that's it. Like, I can't talk to anybody anymore unless I get on Facebook. So I get on Facebook to talk to my friends and family, because otherwise I'm dead. As far as they know, I'm not on Facebook. Well, then I don't exist anymore. It's just like I had to kowtow to it. It's like, all right, I got to give in. And I hold out as long as I can. I was probably the last guy on MySpace. I hold out as long as I can on the old mediums. Because each time they upgrade the medium, it's just a little bit more freedom, a little bit more privacy we lose. And I try to hold on to it as long as I can, like analog versus digital and all that. Because I know where they're steering us. We all know where they're steering us. And I'm trying to hold on as long as I can before I have to follow the sheep just so I can talk to them. And as flat earthers, we're aliens on our own planet. That's pretty much how I feel.
Yeah, sometimes it can feel a little bit isolated, especially when you venture into the real world, and what you are faced with is, although I say that, I was about to say something really negative. I'm going to say something positive now. I wasn't necessarily going to bring this up, but sometimes you do hear people talking in terms that you think, you're a purple pillar. You're halfway there. So I took my kids swimming, and I was in the changing rooms afterwards, and I'm listening to the conversation in the changing rooms, very close quarters because it's being refurbished, and they're talking about the flu vaccination. And the one guy was saying that he had the flu vaccination a couple of years ago, and it gave him pneumonia. And I was like, fucking hell, that's pretty severe. And he was saying, oh, I really don't want to do it again. And I kind of wanted to scream at him and say, just don't do it. Clearly you've had a really horrible effect, but he's still questioning whether or not he should be taking this injection. But at least he's kind of verbally questioning it. Do you know what I mean? With his friends, oh, I'm thinking about whether or not I should or shouldn't. And, the doctor saying I should and all the rest of it, because he had ill health from, I won't go into too much details about this random stranger's life. But nevertheless, it was quite encouraging to hear people to at least some degree questioning what they're told. And these are just, Joe Blogg's normal. But I will put my negative spin on it now. On the whole, you go out into society and you're kind of disappointed about everybody. Everybody's just talking about the soap opera that's on TV or the latest horrible thing that's on the news. Probably bullshit. That's most people in society. That's most of the Western world. And it does get a little bit depressing. You can, as you put it, feel like that sheep that's wandering away from the pen as they all go into the distance holding their iPhone X's.
Yeah. And I'm a black sheep of my family, but I came out to them about flat Earth probably about a month ago. My extended family, like aunts, uncles, cousins, that kind of thing. I actually wore this shirt to the family reunion. And they were like, oh, that's so nice. Like, who made that? And I'm like, actually, I don't know. And they're like, so what have you been doing these days? Well, I kind of have fun doing the activism thing. It's kind of like I do like truth and comedy, like like I kind of throw comedy in with like conspiracy, and then I showed him a couple things, and I started talking to my engineer cousin. He's been an engineer for 30 years. So I'm hitting him with the engineer aspects of flat Earth, which for me is construction of the ISS, the physics of the ISS, and whatnot. So I started to break it down with him, and he asked people ask the initial question, well, what about this? Well, what about that? And you answer them, and then they, okay, yep, yep, makes sense, yep, and he just nodded, and he's looking down, and he's like, yeah, okay, well, what about, okay, yep, and I got to him, I think, and you got him thinking, like, okay, yeah, and I think they're gonna now have a little bit more of an open mind about it. But that's a very hard thing, because that side of the family is very conservative. They're Christian, they're conservative. Pretty much all of them are well off. They do very well, and this is way outside of their their line of reasoning. They're very straightforward, left brain mostly, but they're down to earth as well. It's my family, so if I can do it, they can do it, and I think I get to them, and I wasn't even concerned about the fear aspect. Like we all fear about, oh, I don't want my friends and family to stop talking to me or whatever, but I swallowed a bullet on this one. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be ashamed of what I know to be true in my heart. And I'm going to stand tall, and I'm going to stand proud. I'm going to stand there with a smile and take it. Yep. And that makes a difference too, because of the way you present yourself. And sometimes people might not know what you're talking about when you're going globe versus flat against somebody, but the way you conduct yourself. I was just talking to Issa about this. The way you conduct yourself sometimes against a globe earther makes all the difference in the onlooker's perception of, who is winning this debate, if you want to call it a debate, or who's conducting themselves maturely, who's conducting themselves well. And when the globe earther starts to get erratic, and here comes the insults and the F words and the swearing, and you're sitting there saying, no, and you're still conducting yourself calm, cool, and collected, the people take that in and go, I don't believe the Earth's flat, but this flat earther seems to have, their head on straight. They seem to be conducting themselves well. I'm going to look into this more. And I don't know how many people, like so many people, I've swayed, just not because my argument had truth to it to them, but the way I conducted myself in a debate against somebody. And that's very important. We need to keep our heads, and we need to stay grounded in what we know to be true. We know it's true because we've done the work ourselves, a lot of us. And if you haven't, go out and do it yourself, because you will not be more confident than when you yourself have done this versus you parroting somebody else's experiment. Because how confident are you in someone else's experiment? You're not going to be as confident as you will in your own, and then your own results. So do these yourselves. Just do it for the sake of walking through the steps. But at least you yourself have done it. You've gone and looked out with a telescope or a P900 or something, or you did the math, you did the experiments, things like that, over water. Whatever you can do, like sky observation, do these yourself, and then stand solid in your knowing of your data, because you're just taking in neutral data. That's all it is. Data is not biased one way or the other. It doesn't choose to be right or wrong. It's the person whose perception makes it true or not true or whatever, but facts are facts. Objective reality is objective reality. And if you can prove it by your own observations, and of course taking the refraction and all that and whatever, but overall it's flat. It's flat as far as the eye can see. And I guess somebody just got pictures, or not pictures, but still images from balloons of the firmament. Did you see those?
No. I was going to come on to Dome a bit later on. I mean, before we come off track though, because you've leveled the criticism at somebody that was in chat, which is Flat Earth Core to Issa Mahal. So, what about the way he conducts himself? Just so positive criticism.
Yep. Yeah, and he was telling that to me. He's like, I've won over so many people just on the way I conducted myself in a discussion with somebody about flat Earth. And I said, me too. Like they've literally said, like, I don't believe the Earth's flat, but the flat earthers here are conducting themselves like mature adults. So I'm going to look into it, and it's literally, I couldn't be happier with that kind of result. And it's not even about they understood the physics I was talking about or anything. It's just the way you conduct yourself, because a lot of times it just comes down to presentation. It's not so much substance, and that's what we deal with the fake news and everything. It's about the presentation. If the presentation sells you, that's it. They don't need any substance after that. They've got you. So if you're presenting your argument well, and it's all about a good presentation, eventually they'll understand it. But in the meantime, you've at least sparked their interest to look into it because of the way you presented, the confidence you showed, and your information. It makes a difference. That's what
So
I've noticed.
onto domes then. I mean, the dome is the one thing I'd say I've had no experience of it. I've not seen anything. I mean, the thing that always goes through my mind when when anyone brings up the dome is Amber Plaster singing, and the video that's on my channel, I use it as a channel trailer. It's a great song, but when she talks about the dome, she says there's clearly a dome, and there's a picture of a high altitude balloon playing in the background, and to my eyes, there clearly isn't a dome. So, what have you seen of the firmament? Because I've not seen these images. Where are they? What are they?
I
Who's
could
these?
I could screen share. Because I took caps, so I don't know if that's good. If that's okay with you,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
screen
great.
caps. Okay. Um. Okay. Now I pulled it up. Let me just screen share. And I guess this is a month old.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. There. Now this, and I guess the title of this video is First Photo of Dome Firmament Above Flat Earth. Now, what this person did is they took high altitude balloons and they would hit pause at certain points, and then they raise the contrast and the brightness and whatnot. Now, this is the firmament right here. This is the balloon is tilted upward. This is the sun right here reflecting, like a lot of us have speculated that the sun is just a bank shot reflection off the dome. Well, here's the sun. And now this is what this person has pulled out of the blackness of space with just raising the contrast and brightness levels on a balloon video. And they said they've done this with several. And this is what they've pulled out. Now we got another one right here from the same video. Now, this was not during an eclipse. So what do we have here? This is either that long straightaway, like we're seeing basically the darkness in between the dome and the flat, or it's one of those infamous orbs that seem to orbit the sun that's just at a spot that's causing what appears to be somewhat of an eclipse of the light. Well, it's one or the other. It's definitely not normal. Like, how does this work on the helio model? What we're seeing right here, and
I
that
have
alone, and just pulling up the.
about a year ago, Phuket Word Nick showed a still that he caught on a whole series of photos he took, and it had, I think he called it the sky grid. I think that's how he described it.
Yeah, I saw that, and it looked almost like a grid.
This, I mean, obviously, you're drawing your own conclusion, and I'm not going to disagree with you here, but very, very interesting. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's interesting. I'm not closing any books on the investigation yet, but that I found that very interesting. That what a good idea too. Just taking the balloon footage we already have and just tweaking it to maybe pull structure out of the sky so we can maybe see where that is, because you're looking into total darkness. We can't see how high up it is, but from that, it doesn't look like it's that high up after all. And these balloons may be getting very close to it. Like, it seems to be. Like, that balloon wasn't that far away. If that's really the structure pulled out of the sky. So I'm going to go further into this now. It's motivated me to investigate further on the balloon videos.
Sure. I mean, I've definitely got aspirations for sending up balloons and things. I mean, I think it's extremely exciting because it's no longer in the territory of appealing to authority. You know, we can bleat all day and say, I'm just going to have to phrase it this way. No, I hope somebody doesn't pull this out as a quote from where it's from. But, you know, NASA could tell us tomorrow isn't a great argument. You know, we have to kind of, in this respect, yes, we have to veer away from the pack of sheep. And yeah, currently they're being fed this idea of space. So we've got this notion of what space is, but we can, to a degree, have a look for ourselves with the technology that we have And we have got fantastic technology. There's no two ways about that. As much as we can, belittle it with our older phones, no disrespect. But we do have great technology. We've got great cameras that are cheap that we can send up and look at this stuff for ourselves, rather than saying, come on, NASA, you can do better. You probably know this already. Tell us your secrets. It's like, well, nah, we can just look. We can be our own investigative journalists in how we present this to people, and hopefully going forward they would have as much discernment with us as they do with NASA. These are the the people who've actually woken up to the deception, of course.
Yeah, and it was, how long has it been since we've been able to have batteries that can last long enough in those harsh temperatures up there? Just 30, 40, 50,000 feet, you're kissing minus 70. I'll drain a battery. So we have to
put marvelous batteries on the moon that manage to power buggies, and they could send up amazing communications up to relays that were going around the moon that would broadcast back to Earth. Batteries technology, man, 60s stuff could do.
Yep. You could power an air conditioner on your back for several hours in the intense radiation, not a problem, with just battery power. That's amazing, the batteries they had back then. It really is.
Incredible. We're talking about the moon landings, of course. I mean, I think that's probably a good subject to come on to, because certainly when you're talking to total globe heads, I mean, Charles is included in this list. They're fully sold on NASA and every aspect of it. They're not gonna have the luxury, shall we call it, of saying, well, I don't believe the moon landings are true, but I still think the ISS is real. They're full on, in for a penny, in for a pound. They believe it all. Gem Panda's in the chat at the moment, Agent Gem Panda. Let's see if it's said anything interesting. You can look at the sky and see it. That's very true. But yeah, he's in there and he's fully sold and will defend them to the hilt. But it's bollocks. The moon landings are an absolute joke. You've only got to look at them.
Yep. I've been picking on them for over 20 years. There's so much to pick, but it was the initial shadows and things like that that just got my attention with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be. So I was like, okay, now you've got my attention. Go on. And looked more and more. All right, now we got the footprint. How do you leave a footprint on the moon without moisture? You can't. I know Mythbusters attempted it, but take dry ash out of your wood stove. It's a very fine ash. And that would be probably a close example to it, because there's absolutely no moisture in your wood stove ash. And get a pile of that, go try to make a footprint in it. See if it'll hold. I mean, you really do need the moisture to grab the definition of the bottom of the boot, which they left behind. And Charles will tell you that too. He says, yeah, that was an outer boot. And they basically took them off and left them on the moon. So the one at the museum has a different bottom. So they're doubling up on their boots. So that one finely crafted boot wasn't good enough. We're going to have a double boot here. So they're doing all these maneuvers in double boots, and the way they would fall and bounce back up again. I mean, it defies physics. It's just, and I think you said that you had experience with trapeze. Am I correct there?
Well, I mean, I did a performing arts course.
Not like you were doing them, but you've seen them or whatnot.
Sure. I know how high wire works.
Yeah, and there's wires going on, and I think it was that the staging up above on the wire crane lift would lift them up, and what we've all seen the ping from the wires and such, and there's so, like, you can go on and on about the. And they're over here at one day, and then another day they're said to be miles away, but the hills are exactly the same. And things, so many anomalies. And the NASA trick is never acknowledge it. That way, you've not acknowledged it. So NASA, did you really go to the moon? All right, next question. And they'll just avoid, and they keep avoiding, which keeps it going, because they won't address it. They'll say, "Don't watch those videos; they're stupid." That's it.
How they have their disinformation and debunkings out in the same breath. So you mentioned about the boots, and My wife said that to me. She said, "Oh, on Facebook they've got a picture of the boots in the museum, and they don't match the footprint." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." It's kind of the moon landing stuff is kind of, I don't know. For me, it's not tedious. It's just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of
Beating a
obvious.
dead horse.
Kind of sigh when you hear it. You're like, really? We really having this conversation?
It's the dead horse thing. Yeah, it's beaten. It's done. The physics of Mars was another one that I was hitting, as Mars is said to have only a small percentage of the atmosphere pressure that we have here on Earth. Well, there are balloon videos that they have the parachute attached to it, and now the balloon is rising up, and you can see the speed and air temperature and all that in the readout, and it's things moving 60, 70 miles an hour. And at the bottom of the atmosphere, the parachute's like open. It's pretty open because it's at the bottom, so it's kind of creating a drag, but that parachute later will now halt the descent. So there's camera on the bottom, there's camera up, there's camera to the side, these very nice balloon launches. And you see in the atmosphere, the parachute's deployed. Now when we're at 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 feet, here's the parachute. It's all shriveled. The thing is still moving 60 miles an hour upward. But the parachute now, there is no atmosphere to grab onto to open the parachute. This is what would happen on Mars. And they say that they've dropped all these landers and things on Mars. That would drop like a hot rock, just because the parachute won't open because the atmosphere is too thin. So that's just physics debunking them landing on Mars, according to the way they say they landed. So you can just take physics alone and say, nope, you're lying based on the physics that you said you're doing. So you don't need to say it looks fake, so therefore it is. No, just use the physics that they say and duplicate it in the same kind of environment. Take near a vacuum, not a vacuum, have a little bit of atmosphere in it. See how well a parachute works. It doesn't. So these things would have crashed, especially heading towards Mars so quickly. It's when you look into it, New Horizons going out to Pluto. When they showed the ring around Pluto, I do this. I jump around a lot with astronomy and NASA. I can do this all day. But the ring around Pluto, taken by New Horizons, I thought they were throwing in the towel because the sun from Pluto is supposed to be so small. It would be like this is actually giving them credit. Holding a basketball in your hand with a match at the end of it, and now you take the basketball and you occult the light of the match. Is it going to leave a ring? You know what I'm saying? Like the size of the sun being occulted by Pluto, creating a ring around Pluto, that totally defies everything they've ever said. It makes absolutely no sense. It basically gives a silhouette of what we see of like a full solar eclipse. But this is New Horizons looking at Pluto with the sun behind it. And they were all applauding, yeah, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God. Ah. Like they're just all excited about it. And it's the fakest thing I've ever seen. It's so ridiculous. But that's for somebody who's followed and been a NASA fanboy for so long. You're in disbelief. They create depression in people who love astronomy. It's like, what? Whenever they'd be like, NASA's got a big announcement coming up, I would say, let me guess, maybe, possibly, could be life, maybe water, possibly, mayhaps, be, possibly, we don't know, possibly, maybe, possibly, end of live, news conference. Like, that's NASA. Never a straight answer. Literally. Never, ever a straight answer. Just maybes, possibly. It's like ancient aliens. Ancient astronaut theories maybe possibly created us, mayhaps. It's just you get more confused after you watch the episode because now you have 100 more questions, and they embed more questions and more theoretical pseudoscience possibilities in you at the end of those shows, like Ancient Aliens. It just confuses you even more. It's best to not even watch them at all.
They've also conditioned the general public to just accept cartoons these days. So not only do we have Family Guy and American Dad, just literally adult cartoons, but when you watch Science at NASA, the YouTube NASA channel, their main official channel, they're presenting you with artist renderings. I forgot what the term is, but they'll put it in the bottom right hand corner in 2 or 3 frames of a video. But they'll say, here is Voyager, whatever, and they'll show you Voyager. But it's only, like I say, in a few of the frames that they'll explain that it's an animation. That's the word. So yeah, most people who are watching that are left with the idea that they've just watched Voyager. You know, they're not even going to question, well, you know, Voyager hasn't got a camera fly next to it, because most people haven't got that level of discernment. So they'll watch those programs, and it's deliberately positioned in that way. And for you and I, even pre-Flat Earth, we would have watched those, and for me, certainly, I was left with a real hollow feeling, because you did notice the fact that it said animation, and you're like, well, when are we actually going to see something land on Mars? You know, as opposed to this orangey feed from from Johnny Five. You know, when are we actually going to see something like that? And the answer is never. You know, you never ever see that, because they don't show you, but they show you lots. You know, we are presented with loads. And back when it was the moon landing, they were doing the same thing. You know, they were presenting you with cinematography, you know, a fake filmed presentation, a representation of what a moon landing might look like, in the same way as they present us with animations of what it might look like to land on Mars. But these days, they disclaim the fact that it's an animation, whereas back then they went whole hog and actually tried to dupe us, you know, for real. Rather than just saying, oh no, we have been to the moon, here's an artist's rendition of what it would look like, because obviously we can't film it, but trust us, we've been. You know, on that occasion, they fully went, no, here's the footage. And like you say, this is something you've said a couple of times now, that you've been looking at it for 20 years. That's a hell of a time to be looking at moon landing fakery. So how come such a long time without realizing the Earth is flat?
I was directed on their dead end, which is they're lying because they're hiding the secret space program. They're hiding the alien technology, and I went down that dead end road because
So that bullshit. Because Alex Jones is punting that to this day, and so is who's the other one that punts that? The turncoat guy. I've forgotten his name.
Flat Earth turncoat guy.
Who? Sorry.
The Flat Earth turncoat. What's his name?
No, it was a guy that used to be saying that NASA were faking the moon landings. Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's punting the idea of the secret. You know, they did actually go to the moon. Yes, they did have Kubrick film a load of bullshit and present that to the public, but that's because they were hiding the real intentions of going to the moon. So that bullshit's still being perpetuated in the alternative media to this day, and that was a rabbit hole that was set up 20 years ago.
Yep, and I went down that rabbit hole because I've been chasing UFOs for a long time. I had a very close encounter with one in 2008. I'm talking very close, like 150 feet away, not way up in the sky. And I managed to get, at the time, I had a flip phone with 1 megapixel, and I took 2 stills of what I saw instead of hitting video mode. I only had 30 seconds to react. It was this light in the sky, and I'm like, wow, that plane is moving really fast. And as soon as I said that to myself, it turned, and I saw tilted headlights, it looked like, and it was coming down rapidly and getting bigger and bigger. So I thought, a plane is going to come down. I thought a plane was going to make an emergency landing or crash, is what I thought. So I grabbed my phone thinking I'm about to capture a breaking news thing. And just as it got to the tree line, it leveled off and then goes over the tree line of the highway and then stops over my truck, which at this point I'm down about 25, 30 miles an hour on a 65 mile an hour highway, because I'm fascinated by this. I'm slowing down more and more and more in the slow lane. And now as it leveled off over the trees, I got 1 shot. Then the phone, saving. Now it's over my truck. I go through the windshield. I get another shot. And I'm looking up at this thing, and it's this ball lightning plasma with 3 corner lights oscillating. So it looked like one of those TR3B triangles, which is what I thought it was. So I was like, oh my God, look, is this really happening? And then it just kept going over the tree line. So I got a good look at its underbelly, and went on Google, triangle UFO, anything I could find, and images came up. And one of the images was USAF top secret TR-3B aircraft schematics. And at the center, it said mercury plasma. And I was like, that's what I saw, because that makes sense. Because when you spin mercury that fast or whatever, it glows and it creates magnetic field or whatever. And I'm like, that makes sense. That's what I saw. My investigation was over because I found answers. Then cut to years later, I saw the same thing on a YouTube video, and all those corner lights separated and went in different directions. As the ball lightning went out, the corner lights just zinged off. So I didn't see any solid USAF craft. This is something else. They seem to be conjoined magnetically, I think, the balls or something.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing.
They also took the money shots off my that's another story. They went into my Gmail. I say they, I don't know who they are. They went into my Gmail and they got rid of all of the picture that I sent to other people, and then the 2 hard drives it was on got cooked in the same week. And I only have 1 picture left. And it's not really definitive in any way whatsoever. It's just one light in one of the corners of the thing, because I was just taking picture through the windshield, and that's the one I'm left with. And because I went back in the Gmail, because I'm like, well, I know I attached those, and I go back, it's gone. It's completely gone. I went to another email, it's gone. I go to my hard drives, they're dead now. Click, 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 click. I can't access them. They're cooked. The pictures are gone. So they can get in your email. If you get anything really good, they'll get it before you get it out there. Well, you might be able to get it out there like I did. I put it on MySpace. Put it on a MySpace bulletin. Can't go back anymore. That's long gone. But I didn't notice they pulled it out of my Gmail until like 2 years later, when I was about a year later, maybe, when I went back looking for it. I'm like, son of a bitch is gone. Because I archive all my Gmail, and it was gone. They went in it and took it and cooked my hard drives. But they're real. UFOs are real. I don't know what they are. I don't think they're man-made craft, a lot of these things. I think the only man-made craft are the drones that they have going on, silent drones and whatnot. This thing was also silent, but that I wrote about it on the internet. You can just put Jibby Jedi TR-3B and you'll see a ton of forums where I've written in detail with the only picture I have remaining. I posted it there so you could see it all there. Lunatic Outpost, Conspiracy Outpost, I posted on all those forums. Just to get it out there, just share my information. That's what we do, right?
Well, there's a couple of things I'd say when it comes to UFOs. One, I stick my heliocentric hat on and say that in the world of heliocentricity, aliens have become a mathematical certainty. And this is in the last few years. This is a recent thing. But essentially, the maths proves that aliens exist. Therefore, aliens are real, and non-acceptance is futile. If you believe in the globe, if you think you live on a spinning sphere traveling through space, you now believe in aliens. It's not a fringe belief anymore. It's a fact of heliocentric reality. Now, that being said, again, like space, what we are presented with in terms of aliens is a farce. It's a nonsense. It's as ridiculous as the paintings of the planets, as far as I'm concerned. Now, that's with my heliocentric hat on. Take that hat off, and it's a whole different ball game, because potentially there could be, what I had in my cognition as infinite that way has now become infinite that way. So there could potentially be aliens across the plane. And in recent history, in the last 500 years, what they tell us in terms of our history, I mean, again, how much validity you give this is entirely your choice, but we have discovered new lands, and there were aliens there. People of different coloured skin, people of different cultures and different ways of living, but they looked pretty much like us. So to say that there could be more, and they could get more and more different as you get further and further out, perfectly feasible. What I do want to round out, though, coming off aliens just for a subject change, is onto a slightly contentious subject in flat Earth, which is Antarctica. So, what are your views in terms of Antarctica and its geographical location, maybe, or just in general?
Well, for one, we don't know unless we've been there ourselves to verify where these stations are actually located that we're seeing cameras from and whatnot. For all we know, they could be near Greenland, they could be near the North Pole, and especially the ones that claim 24-hour sun. Yet people have done excellent jobs debunking the fake 24-hour suns. I went over one with Charles not that long ago on the Flat Earth Mania channel, where he's like, check this out, Jibby. Look at this 24-hour sun. And within the first 2 seconds, I said, that sun doesn't look real. Right away. It just didn't look real. It looked like kind of an Adobe After Effects sun. And I said, look at my time lapse here of the sun. Look at yours of the sun. We know mine's the real sun. Yellow, bright. It flickers when the clouds are there. Here's this sun. Uniform, very soft. It was, sure enough, it was duplicated. And yeah, that's been debunked. That was a fake sun. And we're coming across a lot of fakery with 24-hour sun. So they want us to believe that these places are, getting 24-hour sun. I don't see it. And I also think it's a wild goose chase to make Antarctica our first exploration. No. Which direction do you go in? Do you even know? And how do you know what maps are reliable? I say we go to the North Pole. I said that's where we should direct our attention. It's close. We know where we're going. We have a general direction. We follow our compass until it stops working, and then we follow the lights from there. And I think we'll be successful. It's not a kind of thing where we need to spend $1 million on equipment. We could be there and back in 2-3 days. We go there. We only need to get close enough to get zooms and photos and shots of whatever. There's a party going on there. So just get photos of the party, come back, and then, okay, here's what's here. Now we'll see. Now we have a jigsaw puzzle. We're missing the center and we're missing the edge. We have this donut in the middle where the sun trails and where we've mapped. Allegedly, without a big continent in the Pacific Ocean, it's probably there that we don't know about. But besides that, we get the center of the puzzle. I think we then can complete the edge of the puzzle based on logic and reason. Once we know the structure we're in, once we have a better understanding of it. But right now we're speculating in the dark until we have, the data that we're missing. And it's fun to speculate, but we can get lost in it too, and a lot of us do. And Antarctica to me is a wild goose chase, dead end right now. And it's what Admiral Byrd was pushing. Wow, it's getting very crowded at the North Pole right now. So don't go there. Go to Antarctica. There's lots of resources in Antarctica, which there might be. For all I don't know, but it's about the North Pole was getting crowded. What? They're building condos and malls? Like, who's at the North Pole? There's no photography or video from the real North Pole, magnetic pole anyway. Where's the crowds? Where's the footage? Like, something's going on there. And I'm very curious, and I want to make my way there. As soon as I hear about an expedition, I'm joining it. And I'm going to make my way there eventually, see what's there. Now, if it's very profound and kind of like if it's the kind of thing, like if we put this out to the public, they're going to riot and they're going to storm the North Pole. Well, then we need to do a controlled release. Maybe, I don't know, but we have to be delicate. We have to be mature about this because there's wisdom going on here that we don't understand yet. So, we need to think twice before doing a lot of things. We need to look at it from a bigger point of view too. A lot of us are gung-ho or whatever, but I think that if I were to find, say, 15-foot, 20-foot giants at the center and UFOs and orbs, I don't know how I would release that publicly, because that's such a shocker, like people are going to rush there and it's going to just create havoc. How do we do it right? It's just, we need to sit down with like a council and discuss this. Like, there's a lot of aspects to this we haven't really considered yet. Like, think down the road. This is a big thing we're doing here. We're going to rediscover something that they want on lockdown. And they want it on lockdown for a reason. We don't know that reason. We're only speculating. We're only speculating that they're nefarious, and we're always painting them as villains. But for all we know, maybe they're protecting us. I don't know. But I'm going to leave that possibility open. And I'm not villainizing them all on hiding that for malevolent reasons quite yet, until I know for certain.
Right, before we round out this show, I'm going to ask you one final question, which is, what is Jibiru?
It's legend. It's legend, and maybe they weren't very accurate with their interpretation of what Nibiru was. Maybe not. Maybe they were. Jibiru, it's legend. You know, there's an oracle out there said to. There's lots of legends involved with it, and I guess the Jibiru who showed up at Issa's that day, I guess you could call that a channeling. So every so often, when space, I think it's when space doesn't turn black and we have a perpetual twilight, Jibiru can then come, because now we have another light source up there that's doing something that we don't know about. Is this Jibiru? That's what the legend says. It's Jibiru. So we're waiting for Jibiru to make its appearance next year, and hopefully the ISS may be tied to this. There's going to be some reveals next year. We're all working on it, but right now, Jibiru, it's legend, it's myth, but it's myth and legend with some science. You know what I'm saying? It's a mystery. It's mystical.
Well, what can I say? Fingers crossed. With that, I'm going to say
2018.
massive thank you, Jibby, for being on Flat Earth United. You've been a real sport. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
And also a massive thank you to all of you who have joined us in the live audience. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley. I will see you all in the next video.